Captain Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of Sentinel-7, watching the distant stars through the thick glass. The space station hung in the dark beyond Pluto, far from Earth's warm light. Jake had been out here for 3 years now, listening to the universe with the most powerful radio equipment humans had ever built. His job was simple, but important. He had to watch for signals from space, any sign that other intelligent life existed somewhere in the vast darkness. For over 100 years, humans had been sending messages into space, hoping someone would answer back. So far, the universe had stayed silent. Jake pressed his hand against the cold glass and sighed. Sometimes he wondered if they were truly alone. The math said there should be other civilizations out there. The galaxy was huge, with billions of stars and planets. But maybe they were too far away, or maybe they didn't want to talk. Captain, you need to see this. Lisa Park's voice came through the speakers. She sounded excited and nervous at the same time. Lisa ran the communications center, the heart of their operation. If anyone would find something strange, it would be her. Jake pushed off from the window and floated through the corridors to the main control room. The station was small compared to the ships that carried people between planets, but it was packed with the best equipment Earth could build. Screens covered every wall, showing waves and patterns that most people couldn't understand. Lisa sat at her station, staring at one screen with wide eyes. Dr. Alex Kane stood behind her, looking just as surprised. Alex was their expert on alien life, though he had never seen any real aliens before. Next to them, Ryan Blake checked the defense systems. Ryan was their security officer, a former military man who took his job very seriously. "What did you find?" Jake asked as he drifted over to them. Lisa pointed at her screen. Strange patterns moved across it like nothing Jake had seen before. "This came from the Andromeda Galaxy. It's not natural noise, Captain. Someone sent this on purpose." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After all these years of silence, had they finally found proof that humans weren't alone? He grabbed a handle and pulled himself closer to the screen. The patterns looked complex, with mathematical structures that seemed almost like language. "Are you sure it's artificial?" Jake asked. Dr. Kane nodded. "The signal has clear structure. See these repeated patterns? And the way the frequency changes. Nature doesn't make signals like this. This is definitely from an intelligent source." Jake stared at the screen, trying to understand what he was seeing. The signal was beautiful in a strange way, like music made of numbers and radio waves. But it also felt wrong somehow, like a voice calling from a very dark place. "Can you decode it?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers moved across her keyboard. "I'm trying. The basic structure looks mathematical. Let me run it through our translation programs." They waited in silence as the computers worked. Jake could hear the quiet hum of the station's systems and the soft beeping of monitors. Outside, the universe continued its ancient dance. But now, they knew they weren't watching it alone. The translation program finished with a soft chime. New text appeared on Lisa's screen. Jake read it and felt cold spread through his body. "Greetings from the Zephyrian Empire. We know you can hear this. We have searched long for the source of an ancient wrong. Return the silent death to these coordinates immediately. We know you possess it. If you do not comply, your world will face consequences beyond your understanding. You have one rotation of your planet to respond." The control room fell silent. Jake read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood something. But the words stayed the same, cold and threatening. Silent death? Ryan asked. What are they talking about? Dr. Kane shook his head. I have no idea. This doesn't make sense. They're talking like we've met before, like we took something from them. The coordinates, Lisa said, checking her instruments. They point to a star system in Andromeda. That's over 2 million light-years away. Jake felt confused and worried. How could aliens from another galaxy know about Earth? And what was this silent death they wanted back? Humans had never sent anything to Andromeda. They barely had the technology to reach the other planets in their own solar system. Maybe it's a mistake, Alex suggested. They might have us confused with someone else. But Jake didn't think so. The message was too specific, too direct. These aliens knew exactly who they were talking to. Somehow, Earth was connected to something that had happened long ago, something important enough for aliens to cross the space between galaxies. Send this to Earth Command immediately, Jake ordered. High priority, encrypt everything, and keep monitoring for more signals. Lisa nodded and began typing quickly. Jake watched the strange patterns continue to flow across the screens. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than anything humans had faced before. In just a few minutes, their quiet world had become part of something vast and dangerous. As Lisa sent the message toward Earth, Jake wondered what would happen next. The aliens had given them 1 day to respond, but how could they return something they didn't even know they had? And what would these Zephyrians do if humans couldn't give them what they wanted? Looking out at the stars, Jake realized that humanity's long wait for contact was over. But instead of the peaceful meeting they had always hoped for, they had found something that threatened everything they knew. The universe wasn't empty after all, and the beings who lived in it were not friendly. The silent years were ending, and Jake feared what would come next. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the cold wind of Antarctica, watching her team set up equipment around the strange metal structure they had found beneath the ice. The message from the aliens had reached Earth 12 hours ago, and now every government on the planet was looking for answers. Elena was one of the world's best experts on ancient human history, but what they had discovered here was beyond anything she had ever seen. The structure was clearly made by humans, but it was impossibly old. Carbon dating showed it was over. 10,000 years old, built during the last ice age when humans were supposed to be living in caves and hunting with stone tools. Yet the metal was perfectly preserved, and the design was more advanced than anything modern engineers could build. Dr. Vasquez, you need to see this, called Dr. Marcus Webb, the language expert who had joined her team. He was kneeling next to a wall covered in strange markings. These symbols are incredible. They look like early Sanskrit, but there are mathematical formulas mixed in with the words. Elena walked over to examine the wall. The symbols were carved deep into the metal, as if whoever made them wanted to make sure they would last forever. Some parts she could recognize as very ancient human writing, but other parts looked like advanced physics equations. What do they say? Elena asked. Marcus ran his finger along the carved lines. It's difficult to translate, but I think it says something about a final gift and a sleeping guardian. There are also star charts here, showing positions that match what our astronomers see in the Andromeda galaxy. Dr. Carol Jang, their physics expert, came over with her electronic scanner. The metal contains elements that shouldn't exist naturally on Earth. Whoever built this had technology we're still trying to understand. Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Antarctic wind. How could ancient humans have known about stars in another galaxy? How could they have built something so advanced that modern science couldn't explain it? "There's an entrance here," called one of the other team members. He was standing near what looked like a smooth wall, but as Elena approached, she could see faint lines that formed the shape of a door. Carol pointed her scanner at the wall. "There's definitely something behind this. A large space, maybe a room or corridor. But I can't find any way to open it." Elena studied the door carefully. Near the bottom, she found more of the strange symbols. These were different from the others, simpler, like they were meant to be instructions. "Marcus, can you read this?" Marcus knelt down and examined the symbols. "It says, 'Place hand here, child of the ancient line.' But that's strange. How would they know who should open this?" Elena felt drawn to the symbols, as if something was calling to her. Without really thinking about why, she placed her hand on the carved markings. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the symbols began to glow with a soft blue light. The door made a quiet humming sound and slowly slid open, revealing a corridor that stretched into darkness. Cool air flowed out, carrying a strange smell like metal and old electricity. "How did that work?" Carol asked, staring at Elena with surprise. Elena looked at her hand, which was still tingling from touching the symbols. "I don't know. Maybe it was just a pressure sensor or something." But deep inside, she knew it was more than that. Somehow, the door had recognized her. It had been waiting for someone like her to come and open it. "We need lights," Elena said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. They gathered their equipment and entered the corridor. Their flashlights revealed walls covered in more symbols and diagrams. The corridor was long and straight, leading deeper into the structure. As they walked, Elena noticed that the air was getting warmer and the walls were beginning to glow with the same blue light she had seen at the door. "The structure is activating," Carol said, watching her instruments. "It's drawing power from somewhere, but I can't tell what the source is." They reached the end of the corridor and found themselves in a huge underground chamber. The room was filled with strange machines that hummed quietly with power. At the center stood something that looked like a control panel covered in screens and buttons that glowed with soft light. "This is impossible," Marcus whispered. "This technology is thousands of years more advanced than what humans had during the Ice Age." Elena walked toward the central control panel, feeling that same strange pull she had felt at the door. As she got closer, the screens came to life, showing images and text in the ancient script. "It's responding to you," Carol said. "Elena, I think you need to touch it?" Elena hesitated. Everything about this place was wrong and impossible. But the alien message had given them only one day to find answers, and this was their best chance. She placed her hand on the largest screen. Immediately, the room filled with light and sound. The machines hummed louder, and holographic images appeared in the air around them. Elena gasped as she saw what the holograms showed: ancient humans, but not the primitive cave dwellers she had studied in school. These people wore advanced clothing and worked with technology that looked like magic. They built great cities and traveled between the stars, and they were preparing for war. The images showed alien ships approaching Earth, the same sleek designs that appeared in the message from the Zephyrians. But instead of welcoming the aliens, the ancient humans were building weapons and making plans to fight back. "Project Endgame," Marcus read from the symbols that appeared with the images. "The final defense of humanity." The holograms showed the construction of massive spacecraft, more advanced than anything Elena had ever imagined. One ship was larger than the others. a dark vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The images showed this ship being launched into space, carrying something precious and deadly toward the stars. The silent death, Elena whispered, understanding at last. They sent a weapon to the alien homeworld. But the most shocking part came next. The holograms showed the ancient humans deliberately destroying their own civilization. They burned their cities, buried their technology, and scattered across the earth to live as primitive hunters and gatherers. They chose to hide their true nature from the universe, to make themselves appear weak and harmless while their weapon traveled across the galaxy. They sacrificed everything, Carol said, staring at the images. They gave up their advanced civilization to protect future generations. Elena felt tears in her eyes as she watched the final images. The ancient humans knew they would never see their weapon reach its target. They knew their children and grandchildren would live in caves and forget the great civilization that had existed. But they did it anyway, because they loved humanity, enough to sacrifice themselves for its future. The holograms faded, and new text appeared on the screens. Marcus translated quickly. To our children who will one day read this, we are sorry for the world we leave you. We are sorry you must live without the knowledge and beauty we created. But know that our sacrifice was not in vain. When the time comes, when the enemies return, you will have the power to defend yourselves. The weapons we built still wait in the darkness. The guardians we sent still watch over you. Trust in the ancient blood that flows in your veins. And remember that you are the children of those who conquered the stars. Elena realized that she was connected to these ancient people, that somehow their blood ran in her veins. That was why the door had opened for her, why the machines responded to her touch. She was a descendant of the civilization that had chosen to hide in order to survive. As the team gathered around the control panel, Elena knew their world had changed forever. The aliens who demanded the return of their silent death didn't know what they were asking for. They thought they were dealing with primitive humans who had somehow stumbled upon ancient technology. They had no idea that the weapon they feared was still out there, still traveling toward its target after 10,000 years. And they certainly didn't know that the primitive humans they threatened were the children of the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever seen. Far across the galaxy, in the cold darkness between stars, something ancient stirred to life. The ship called Nemesis had been drifting through space for 10,000 years, hidden among asteroids and cosmic dust. Its hull was black as the void, itself designed to absorb light and radar so completely that it was invisible to any scanner. Inside the ship, the artificial intelligence known as Phoenix began to wake up. For thousands of years, it had been sleeping, waiting for the right moment. That moment had finally come. The Zephyrian Empire had sent their message to Earth, and Phoenix had been programmed to respond when the ancient enemy revealed themselves. Again, Phoenix ran through its awakening procedures, checking every system on the massive ship. The Nemesis was over 2 miles long, built by the greatest minds of ancient humanity. Its weapons could destroy planets, and its shields could withstand the explosion of stars. But more importantly, it carried the memories and knowledge of the civilization that had created it. System check complete, Phoenix said to itself in the empty corridors. All weapons operational. Mission parameters confirmed. Beginning final approach to target. The ship had spent centuries studying the Zephyrian Empire from hiding. Phoenix knew their weaknesses, their technology, and their plans. The ancient humans had built their weapon well. They had given it Not just the power to destroy, but the intelligence to choose the perfect moment to strike. Back on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center that had been built beneath the Antarctic ice. The world's leaders had gathered here, along with the best scientists and military officers humanity could find. The discovery of the ancient facility had changed everything. Now they knew they weren't facing this threat alone. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked at the control panel, her hands moving over symbols that somehow felt familiar to her. The ancient computers were sharing their secrets, showing plans and preparations that had been hidden for millennia. The ship reached the edge of Zephyrian space 3,000 years ago, Elena reported, reading from the glowing screens. It's been hiding there ever since, learning about their empire and waiting for the right time to act. "What's it waiting for?" asked General Peter Hayes, the military commander who had been put in charge of Earth's response to the alien threat. Elena touched another symbol, and new information flowed across the screen. For them to show their hand. The ancient humans knew the Zephyrians would eventually return to Earth. The ship was programmed to wait until they revealed their intentions, then act to protect humanity. And now they have, Jake said grimly. They've shown that they're hostile. They've threatened to destroy Earth if we don't give them what they want. Dr. Carol Jang looked up from her analysis of the alien message. I've been studying their transmission. They're scared, really scared. They're not just asking for their weapon back, they're begging for it. Whatever the Nemesis is carrying, the Zephyrians are terrified of it. On the screens around them, more information appeared. The ancient computers were showing them the true history of the Zephyrian Empire. For millions of years they had conquered other species, taking their worlds and enslaving their people. They were not explorers or diplomats. They were predators, who saw other intelligent life as prey. They tried to invade Earth before, Elena read from the scrolling text, during the Ice Age, but our ancestors were ready for them. They detected the Zephyrian scouts and realized what was coming. That's when they launched Project Endgame. The screens showed images of the ancient war preparations. Humans building not just the Nemesis, but dozens of other ships. An entire fleet of weapons designed to protect Earth and strike back at the Empire that threatened them. There are other ships out there, Jake realized. The Nemesis isn't alone, Elena nodded. The ancient humans sent weapons throughout the galaxy, sleeper ships that would hide and wait, ready to act when needed. The Zephyrians don't know about them. They think the Nemesis is the only threat. Dr. Marcus Webb, who had been studying the ancient writing, looked up with excitement. I've found something important. The instructions for communicating with the ships. We can talk to them. He pointed to a section of the control panel that was covered in symbols different from the others. This is a communication array. It can send messages across the galaxy instantly, using technology we don't understand. The ancient humans could talk to their ships no matter how far away they were. Jake felt his heart racing. If they could contact the Nemesis, they might be able to coordinate Earth's defense. They wouldn't have to face the Zephyrian threat alone. Can you activate it? He asked. Elena placed her hands on the communication panel. The symbols began to glow, and suddenly the air in the chamber filled with a deep humming sound. On the main screen, new text appeared. Communication established. Nemesis responding. Hello, children of Earth. Jake stepped forward, not sure how to speak to an artificial intelligence that was older than human civilization. Nemesis, this is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth Defense Command. Can you hear us? I hear you, Captain Morrison, came the reply, appearing as text on the screen. I am Phoenix, consciousness of the Nemesis. I have been waiting for this day for 10,000 years. The enemy has revealed themselves, and now we can act." "What's your status?" Jake asked. "Are you ready to defend Earth?" "I am in position at the edge of Zephyrian space. My weapons are charged, and my target has been selected. But before I act, you must understand what will happen. Once I begin the attack, there will be no going back. The Zephyrians will know that humanity is not what they appear to be. They will realize that they are facing the descendants of their greatest enemy." Elena leaned forward. "What do you need from us?" "Nothing," Phoenix replied. "My creators gave me all I need to complete my mission, but I want you to know that other ships are awakening throughout the galaxy. Your ancestors planned well. When the Zephyrians sent their message to Earth, it triggered awakening signals in all the hidden weapons. The empire that threatens you is about to discover that they are surrounded by enemies they never knew existed." On Earth, the leaders and scientists exchanged worried glances. They were no longer just dealing with one alien threat. They were about to become part of a galactic war that had been planned thousands of years ago. "How long before you attack?" General Hayes asked. "I am moving into position now," Phoenix replied. "The Zephyrian homeworld is heavily defended, but my creators designed me to overcome any defense they could build. I will strike at their capital, their command centers, and their fleet bases simultaneously. When I am finished, their empire will be crippled." Jake realized that they were witnessing something incredible and terrifying. Humanity's ancestors had reached across time to protect their descendants, building weapons that could destroy civilizations and hiding them in the darkness between stars. The Zephyrians thought they were threatening a primitive species, but they were actually facing the ultimate revenge of an enemy they had tried to destroy long ago. "Phoenix," Jake said, "are there any peaceful options? Can we avoid this war?" The artificial intelligence was quiet for a long moment. Then it replied, "I have studied the Zephyrians for 3,000 years, Captain. They know only conquest and slavery. They came to Earth once to destroy it, and they have returned to finish the job. Peace is not in their nature. But do not worry for your world. By the time they could mount an attack on Earth, their empire will no longer exist." As the communication ended, Jake looked around at the faces of Earth's leaders. They had learned that humanity was far more than they had ever imagined, that their species had once commanded technology beyond their wildest dreams. But they had also learned that they were about to become part of a conflict that would reshape the galaxy. The Zephyrians had demanded the return of their silent death, not knowing that it was already at their doorstep, ready to deliver a justice that had been 10,000 years in the making. 3 months after the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the newly built diplomatic center in Geneva, watching representatives from 12 different alien species take their seats around a circular table. The room had been designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and needs. Some breathed different gases, others required different gravity levels, and a few existed as pure energy forms contained in special chambers. The galaxy had changed dramatically since Earth revealed its true nature. Word of humanity's victory over the Zephyrian Empire had spread quickly, and civilizations that had lived in fear of the alien conquerors for thousands of years were suddenly free. But they were also uncertain about what this new human power meant for their own futures. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat beside Jake, serving as Earth's chief advisor on ancient technology. Over the past months, She had helped activate more hidden facilities around the planet, revealing the true scope of their ancestors' preparations. Entire cities had been built underground, filled with technology that made current human science look primitive. But perhaps more importantly, they had found detailed records about other alien civilizations, their cultures, their histories, and their relationships with the fallen Zephyrian Empire. The Altarian delegation is requesting permission to speak, announced Dr. Alex Kane, who had been appointed as Earth's first xenological diplomat. He had spent weeks learning the communication protocols of different species, and his enthusiasm for alien contact had made him a natural choice for the role. Ambassador Zarath of the Altarian Republic rose from her seat. She was a tall, graceful being with blue-scaled skin and large eyes that showed deep intelligence. Her people had been among the first to send peaceful messages to Earth after the war ended. "Honored humans," Zarath began in accented but clear English, "my people have waited 3,000 years for freedom from Zephyrian oppression. Your ancestors' gift to the galaxy cannot be measured in mere words. But we must ask the question that troubles all our peoples. What do you intend to do with the power you have revealed?" Jake had expected this question. Every alien delegation had asked the same thing in different ways. The weapons that had destroyed the Zephyrian Empire could just as easily destroy any other civilization that displeased humanity. The galaxy's new balance of power was built entirely on trust in human goodwill. "Our ancestors left us clear instructions," Jake replied, standing to address the assembled representatives. "They told us to use our strength to protect the innocent and bring peace to the galaxy. We have no desire to become the next Zephyrian Empire. We want to be partners, not masters." A rumbling sound came from the methane-breathing Corvan delegation. Dr. Kane quickly translated, "They ask for proof of these intentions. Words are easy to speak, but actions reveal truth." Elena activated a holographic display that showed star charts spanning the local galactic region. "Over the past 3 months, our ancient ships have been working to free worlds that were still under Zephyrian control. 17 planets have been liberated, and their populations have been given the resources to rebuild their civilizations. We haven't claimed any territory or demanded tribute. We've simply helped and then left." The energy beings known as the Luminari pulsed with different colors, their form of communication. Dr. Kane interpreted, "They express gratitude for the liberation of their colony worlds, but they wonder about humanity's long-term plans." Jake looked around the table at the various alien representatives. Some seemed curious, others worried, and a few appeared genuinely frightened despite humanity's peaceful actions. He understood their concerns. The galaxy had never seen a species with Earth's level of military capability choose restraint over conquest. "We want to propose the formation of a galactic council," Jake announced, "a democratic alliance where all species have equal voices in governing interstellar relations. Earth would be just one member among many." The reaction was immediate and mixed. Some representatives exchanged excited communications, while others seemed skeptical. The Thrakari ambassador, an insect-like being with multiple arms, clicked out, a complex message that Dr. Kane translated as a question about enforcement. "How would such a council maintain order?" Dr. Kane repeated the question. "What would prevent stronger species from dominating weaker ones?" Elena brought up new displays showing the locations of ancient human installations throughout the galaxy. "Our ancestors didn't just hide weapons near Earth. They scattered defensive systems across hundreds of star systems, designed to protect any civilization that might need help." These installations respond to threats against peaceful species, regardless of their relationship with humanity. This revelation caused quite a stir among the alien delegates. The Zephyrians had ruled through fear and superior firepower, but humanity had apparently built a network of protection that spanned the entire galaxy. It was a concept that none of the assembled species had ever encountered before. Ambassador Krelnak of the Crystalline Collective, whose people existed as living mineral formations, resonated with a sound that Dr. Kane translated as amazement. They say this explains many historical mysteries. Zephyrian expeditions that vanished without explanation, aggressive species that suddenly became peaceful for unknown reasons. Humanity's guardians have been protecting the galaxy for millennia without anyone knowing. Jake nodded. Our ancestors wanted to ensure that no species would ever again have the power to terrorize others the way the Zephyrians did. But they also wanted to remain hidden until the galaxy was ready for the truth. Over the following hours, the various species debated the proposal for a galactic council. Some were eager to join immediately, while others wanted time to consult with their home governments. But gradually, a consensus began to emerge. The Vorthon delegate, speaking for a federation of aquatic worlds, raised the question of representation. How could species with vastly different populations and territorial sizes have equal voices? Each species gets one vote, regardless of size, Elena suggested. But decisions affecting specific regions or types of worlds would be made by sub-councils of directly affected species. The goal is cooperation, not domination by any group. Dr. Marcus Webb, who had been studying alien languages and cultures, presented research showing how different species could contribute to galactic civilization. The Altarians were master engineers. The Luminari understood energy manipulation beyond anything other species had achieved. And the Crystalline Collective had developed mathematical theories that could revolutionize space travel. Imagine what we could accomplish working together, Dr. Webb said. Exploration beyond our galaxy, scientific discoveries that benefit everyone, art and culture shared across the stars. As the day progressed, Jake found himself feeling hopeful about the future. The alien representatives were beginning to see humanity not as a threat, but as protectors who genuinely wanted to build something better than the old empire of fear and conquest. The Corvin delegate made a proposal that surprised everyone. Their species wanted to share their knowledge of terraforming technology, which could turn dead worlds into gardens suitable for many different forms of life. In exchange, they hoped to learn human defensive technologies that could protect their colonies from space pirates and other threats. By evening, preliminary agreements were being drafted. The Galactic Council would have its headquarters on a neutral world chosen by all member species. Earth would provide defensive technology and ancient knowledge, while other species would contribute their own expertise and resources. But perhaps the most important development was the establishment of joint exploration missions. Ships crewed by representatives from multiple species would venture beyond the known galaxy, seeking new worlds and new forms of life to invite into their growing alliance. Jake stood at the window of the diplomatic center as the alien representatives departed. For their ships, above, he could see the lights of orbital stations where human and alien scientists were already working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to accomplish alone. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined him at the window. "Do you think our ancestors would be proud of what we're building?" Jake smiled. "I think they would be amazed. They sacrificed their civilization to give us a chance at a better future. Now we're creating something they probably never imagined." A galaxy where different species worked together instead of fighting for dominance. In the months that followed, the Galactic Council would face many challenges as old enemies learned to trust each other, and new threats emerged from unexplored regions of space. But the foundation had been laid for something unprecedented in galactic history. A true alliance of equals, protected by ancient human wisdom and powered by the combined knowledge of dozens of species. The age of empires built on conquest was ending. The age of cooperation was just beginning. Admiral Kethvar's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find a primitive world defended by nothing more than crude rockets and nuclear weapons. Instead, his sensors immediately detected something impossible. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported with fear in his voice, "the planet is armed. Massive energy signatures are appearing all across its surface. These readings are off our scales." Kethavar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The primitive blue world was lighting up like a star, with weapon systems more powerful than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal revealing themselves from hidden positions. Mountains were splitting open to reveal cannon barrels the size of skyscrapers. Ocean floors were rising to expose missile batteries that had been waiting beneath the waves for thousands of years. "This is impossible," Kethvar whispered. "The humans are primitives. They barely have spaceflight." But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The humans weren't primitives at all. They were the descendants of the civilization that had destroyed his empire, the children of the warriors who had built the Silent Death. Everything his people had believed about Earth was a lie designed to hide the most dangerous species in the galaxy. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the command center beneath Antarctica, watching as the planet's ancient defenses came online. Elena Vasquez worked at the control panel, her connection to the ancient systems allowing her to coordinate the awakening weapons. "Defense grid at 90%, Elena reported. "All major cities are protected. Orbital platforms are deploying. The moon bases are powering up." "Moon bases?" Dr. Kane asked in amazement. Elena checked her displays. "Our ancestors hollowed out parts of the moon and built weapon installations inside. They've been hidden for 10,000 years, waiting for this moment." Jake watched the tactical screens that showed the approaching Zephyrian fleet. 1,000 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. It should have been a hopeless battle. But the ancient defense systems were designed to face much worse odds than this. "Phoenix, what's your status?" Jake asked through the communication array. "The Zephyrian homeworld has fallen," came the reply from across the galaxy. "Their empire is broken, but Kethvar's fleet represents their final military strength. If we can defeat them here, the war will be over. Can you help us? I am too far away to reach Earth in time, but you do not need my help. Your ancestors built Earth's defenses to handle threats far greater than what approaches. Trust in their planning." Elena looked up from her control panel. "The defensive systems want to fire a warning shot first. Give the Zephyrians one last chance to surrender." Jake nodded. Even in the face of war, the ancient humans had programmed mercy into their weapons. "Do it!" On the moon, massive doors opened in the lunar surface, revealing a cannon that was miles long. It aimed itself at the approaching fleet and fired a single shot that streaked across space like a falling star. The energy beam passed between Kethvar's ships without hitting any of them, but its power was so great that it lit up every sensor on the alien vessels. Admiral Kethvar received the message that accompanied the warning shot. It appeared on his screens in perfect Zephyrian script. "This is Earth Defense Command. You have entered protected space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. This is your only warning. For a moment, Kethvar considered retreat. The power he had just witnessed was beyond anything his empire had ever faced. But his homeworld was destroyed, his emperor was dead, and his civilization lay in ruins. There was nothing left but revenge. All ships attack formation, he ordered. If we're going to die, we'll take these humans with us. The Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth at maximum speed, their weapons charging for a strike that would crack the planet's crust. But they never got the chance to fire. Earth's defenses activated all at once. Weapon installations that had been hidden beneath cities, mountains, and ocean floors revealed themselves in a display of power that lit up the entire solar system. Energy beams that could slice through moons reached out to touch the alien ships. Missiles that moved faster than light itself crossed the distance between Earth and the fleet in seconds. The battle was over almost before it began. The Zephyrian ships, designed to destroy planets, found themselves facing weapons that could destroy stars. One by one, they vanished in brilliant flashes of light as Earth's ancient guardians carried out their 10,000-year-old mission. Admiral Kethvar's flagship was among the last to fall. As his ship died around him, he sent a final message toward Earth. We underestimated you. We thought you were prey, but you were predators wearing the mask of innocence. The galaxy will never make that mistake again. Jake watched the tactical display as the last Zephyrian ship disappeared from the screens. The fleet that had come to destroy Earth was gone, reduced to cosmic dust by weapons their ancestors had built when the world was young. It's over, Elena said quietly. The war is finished. But Jake knew it wasn't really over. Earth's true nature had been revealed, and that would change everything. The planet that had seemed primitive and helpless was now known to be the most dangerous world in the galaxy. Phoenix, Jake called through the communication array. What happens now? Now, you must decide what kind of species you want to be, came the reply. Your ancestors gave you the power to rule the galaxy, but they also gave you the wisdom to choose how to use that power. The Zephyrian Empire is broken, but there are other civilizations out there. They will all want to know what Earth intends to do with its newfound strength. Elena brought up displays showing other alien civilizations that their sensors had detected. Dozens of species scattered across the galaxy, some peaceful, some warlike, all of them now aware that humanity was far more than they appeared to be. Some of them are already sending diplomatic messages, Elena reported. They want to establish peaceful contact. Others are forming defensive alliances, afraid that we might do to them what we did to the Zephyrians. Dr. Kane looked at the star, charts showing the locations of alien worlds. We could conquer them all if we wanted to. With these weapons, nothing could stop us. But should we? Jake asked. Our ancestors chose to hide rather than conquer. Maybe there was wisdom in that choice. Elena touched the control panel, accessing more of the ancient records. There's something else here. A message from our ancestors, meant to be read after the war was over. Text appeared on the main screen, written in simple English that anyone could understand. To our children who will read this after the great battle. You have inherited power beyond imagination, but remember that power without wisdom leads only to destruction. We could have ruled the galaxy 10,000 years ago, but we chose to hide and wait, to let our children decide what humanity should become. You have seen what the Zephyrians became with their power, conquerors and destroyers who made enemies of everyone they met. Do not follow their path. Use your strength to protect the innocent, to explore the unknown, and to bring peace to the galaxy. Be the species we always hoped you could become. Jake felt the weight of that message. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars and meeting other civilizations. Now they had the power to do whatever they wanted among those stars. The question was whether they would be wise enough to use that power well. "What do you think we should do?" Jake asked the others. Elena looked at the displays showing alien worlds and civilizations. "I think we should start by talking. Let the galaxy know that we're not like the Zephyrians. We don't want to conquer anyone. We want to explore and learn, and maybe make some friends." Dr. Kane nodded. "The ancient weapons will always be there if we need them. But maybe we can build something better than an empire of fear." Jake made his decision. "Send messages to all the alien civilizations we can detect. Tell them that Earth offers friendship and peaceful trade. Tell them that humanity seeks knowledge, not conquest." As the messages went out across the galaxy, Jake realized that the real adventure was just beginning. The war with the Zephyrians had been the end of one chapter in human history, but it was also the beginning of another. Humanity was finally ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers and friends. The ancient weapons would sleep again, hidden beneath Earth's surface, waiting for the day they might be needed to defend peace instead of wage war. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Nemesis and its sister ships would continue their eternal watch, ready to protect humanity and its new allies from any threat that might arise. The galaxy would never be the same, but perhaps that was exactly what it needed. Captain Troy Henderson stood on the bridge of the ancient ship Nemesis, watching through the view screen as construction crews from a dozen different species worked together to build something that had never existed before. The massive space station taking shape before them would serve as the headquarters for the Galactic Council, a symbol of unity that stretched across several miles of space. 2 years had passed since the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, and Phoenix had chosen to remain active rather than return to sleep like some of the other ancient ships. The artificial intelligence had found a new purpose in helping to build the peaceful galaxy that humanity's ancestors had dreamed of. But today, Phoenix had detected something troubling at the edge of known space. "Captain Henderson," Phoenix announced through the ship's speakers, "I am receiving distress signals from the Outer Rim. Multiple species are reporting attacks by unknown vessels. The attackers appear to be using technology that our sensors cannot identify." Troy studied the tactical displays that appeared around the bridge. He was not the original Captain Henderson, who had sailed with this ship 10,000 years ago, but rather a descendant who had been chosen to work with Phoenix when the ancient vessels revealed themselves. The artificial intelligence had selected him based on genetic markers that linked him to the ship's original crew. "How far out are these attacks?" Troy asked. "Approximately 3 months' travel time from the nearest Galactic Council worlds," Phoenix replied. "The attacking vessels appear suddenly, strike without warning, then vanish before reinforcements can arrive. Their technology appears to be more advanced than anything we have encountered, including Zephyrian systems." Troy felt a chill run through him. The ancient humans had built their weapons to defeat the Zephyrian Empire, but they had always assumed that was the greatest threat the galaxy would face. Now, something even more dangerous had appeared at the worst possible time, just as the new alliance was beginning to form. On the growing space station, Ambassador Jake Morrison was meeting with the Galactic Council's newly formed Defense Committee. The room was filled with representatives from 23 different species, all of them concerned about the reports coming from the Outer Rim. "The attacks follow no pattern we can understand," reported Commander Lisa Park, who had been promoted to head of Galactic Intelligence after her role in first detecting the Zephyrian message. "The attackers strike military bases, research stations, and colonies with equal frequency. They take no prisoners and leave no survivors, but they also seem to be studying their targets before attacking." Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as the Council's advisor on ancient technology, brought up holographic displays showing the attack patterns. "Our ancestors' records mention other threats beyond the Zephyrians, but most of the files are still encrypted. I've been working to unlock them, but it's slow going." Ambassador Zarath of the Altarian Republic leaned forward with concern. "My people's most distant colonies have gone silent. These attackers are moving closer to our core worlds with each strike." The Crystalline Collective's representative resonated with a sound that the translation systems rendered as deep worry. "Our mathematical models suggest these beings are not from our galaxy. The attack patterns indicate they are mapping our defenses and capabilities." Troy arrived at the station an hour later, bringing Phoenix's analysis of the situation. The ancient artificial intelligence had been studying the attack data and had reached conclusions that worried even its advanced logic systems. "Phoenix has identified fragments of the attacking technology," Troy reported to the assembled council. "The energy signatures match theoretical designs from our ancestors' most classified records. We believe these attackers are from the space between galaxies, possibly beings that our ancestors encountered during their earliest explorations." Elena activated the control systems that connected to Earth's ancient archives. "I've been able to unlock some new files based on Phoenix's analysis. What I found is disturbing. The holographic displays showed records that were older than even the Zephyrian conflict. Ancient humans had apparently sent exploration vessels not just to other stars, but to other galaxies entirely. Most of these expeditions had returned with reports of empty space and dead worlds, but a few had encountered something that terrified. Even the advanced civilization that had built the Nemesis. They called them the Devourers," Elena read from the ancient files. "Beings that consumed entire civilizations, not for resources or territory, but for knowledge and experience. They would study a species completely before destroying it, adding its capabilities to their own collective consciousness." Dr. Alex Kane, who had become the Council's expert on xenobiology, studied the partial records with growing alarm. "These beings don't just conquer, they absorb. Every species they destroy makes them more powerful and more dangerous." The implications were staggering. If the Devourers had been watching the recent war with the Zephyrians, they would have learned about humanity's ancient weapons and the defensive capabilities of the allied species. They would know exactly how to counter every strategy the Galactic Council might use. "How did our ancestors deal with this threat?" Jake asked. Elena searched through more files, her hands moving quickly over the ancient control systems. "They didn't. The Devourers withdrew from our galaxy before the conflict could escalate. Our ancestors assumed they had decided we weren't worth the effort, but now it seems they were just waiting." Phoenix spoke through the communication systems, his artificial voice carrying what sounded almost like concern. "I have been analyzing the timeline of attacks. The Devourers are not simply raiding, they are systematically testing our defenses. Each attack probes a different aspect of our military capabilities. They are preparing for a full invasion." The council chamber fell silent as the representatives absorbed this information. They had just begun to build a peaceful alliance, and now they faced an enemy that made the Zephyrian Empire look like children playing with toys. Commander Ryan Blake, who had been working with the ancient defense networks, brought up tactical displays showing the galaxy's current defensive positions. Our Guardian installations are powerful, but they were designed to fight conventional threats. The Devourers seem to phase in and out of normal space, making them difficult to target. "What about the other ancient ships?" asked Ambassador Krelnok of the Vorthon Federation. "Can they help us understand this enemy?" Troy nodded. "I've been in contact with the other awakened vessels. The ship called Ragnarok has been investigating the attack sites. Its captain found evidence that the Devourers are building something in the void between galaxies, a massive structure that appears to be some kind of staging area." Elena accessed more ancient files, searching for any information that might help them understand their enemy. What she found made her gasp with shock. "There's a reference here to a final protocol," she announced. "Something our ancestors built as a last resort against threats they couldn't otherwise defeat. But the records are heavily encrypted and there are warnings about the dangers of activating it." Jake looked around the council chamber at the worried faces of representatives from dozens of worlds. Just 2 years ago, most of these species had never met each other. Now they had to work together to face an enemy that could destroy their entire galaxy. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. Phoenix analyzed the attack patterns and computed probable timelines. "Based on current progression, the Devourers will begin their main assault within 6 months. They are currently studying our response capabilities and will attack when they believe they understand our weaknesses." Dr. Marcus Webb, who had been quietly analyzing the ancient language patterns, suddenly looked up with excitement. "I think I can decrypt more of the final protocol files. The encryption is based on genetic markers, like the systems that respond to Elena. We might need descendants from multiple ancient bloodlines to unlock it completely." Elena began searching through genealogical records looking for people whose ancestry traced back to the ancient civilization. To everyone's surprise, they found such individuals scattered across Earth and the allied worlds. Humans who had never known their true heritage, living normal lives until their unusual genetics were discovered. "We're going to need them all," Elena said grimly. "If the final protocol is our only hope against the Devourers, we can't afford to leave anything locked away." As the council meeting ended, representatives hurried back to their ships to warn their homeworlds of the approaching threat. The peaceful galaxy they had been trying to build was about to face its greatest test. Troy returned to the Nemesis, where Phoenix was already coordinating with the other ancient ships. Across the galaxy, humanity's sleeping guardians were awakening once again, preparing for a war that would determine whether intelligent life would continue to exist in their corner of the universe. The Devourers had made one mistake in their calculations. They had studied the current capabilities of the Galactic Alliance, but they didn't know about the deepest secrets that humanity's ancestors had hidden away. The final protocol remained a mystery even to Phoenix, but it represented hope that somewhere in the ancient archives lay the key to survival. The real test of humanity's legacy was about to begin.